Welcome back to the channel, you guys. POV for you guys today. It's top down, the sun's just about to go down. So this could get a little bit confusing if you haven't been keeping up with the Mercedes model lineup, but effectively what this is a combination, a mesh of the E-Class and the C-Class Cabriolet or Coupe. So a few years ago, the C-Class got bigger, the wheelbase got extended, they updated the front end to look incredibly similar to this, if not identical. And of course, the E-Class just got updated for the 2024 model year, and it got a lot bigger as well. So effectively, this is the same wheelbase as the current C-Class, but the body is 4 inches longer than the C-Class sedan. And the entire length of the car and the wheelbase is effectively the same as the previous generation E-Class Coupe and Cabriolet. So it's basically an E-Class sized car of previous generation or a current generation C-Class size. All that aside, what you need to know is the cars just keep getting bigger. So CLE is a mashup of those two models, much like the CLK used to be back in the day. So it is the base engine. It's got a 2-liter 4-cylinder under the hood, 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. It is a mild hybrid, of course. These come standard 4MATIC all-wheel drive here in Canada. And of course, that mild hybrid system adds a little bit of torque fill and start-stop technology. So you'll be coasting, the engine will shut off. And then, of course, when the engine shuts off at a light and then it gets going again, very smooth to do that. And to cut down on fuel economy, because with a vehicle this big, you're fighting weight. This weighs just shy of 4,400 pounds, and it's huge. So the front end, like I mentioned, very similar to the current C-Class. This is where it changes a bit. So let me know what you guys think about this kind of, it's not quite a light bar, I guess, but it's a little bit smoother, more round than it was on both the C-Class and the E-Class. It is an incredibly long car, and of course seats 4. You might think it has a dual exhaust. No, that goes nowhere. Personally, we'll get to the price in a sec, but I would not buy a Mercedes-Benz with fake exhaust tips like that. That is absolutely ridiculous. If you're comparing it to the old C-Class convertible, we have a ton more rear leg room and a little bit more cargo room there as well. Let me just quickly sit behind myself. It isn't actually too bad. That goes back basically to my driving position. Now, I'm not tall, I'm about 5'9", but tons of knee room and leg room back here. The seats are a little bit upright, little bit vertical. Maybe not the best for the longer drives, but for a shorter drive, it's fairly comfortable. And if you like the top down, then you're going to buy a convertible regardless. So it's basically fully spec'd. So it's got the AMG line, which includes these 20-inch AMG wheels. The grill's a little bit different. I mean, the entire bumper is different as well. And you do get sport suspension too. So it sits a little bit lower and the dampers are a little bit stiffer. They are adaptive dampers. Let's go for a drive. Even though it's not the AMG and it doesn't have the inline 6, the 3-liter inline 6. Thank you, Mercedes. It might be fun to drive. Let's find out. We will go set our dynamic mode. Of course, we have eco, we've got comfort, we have sport, and we have individual. Not too many settings, not like you'd have in an AMG. We just have basically 2 settings. Well, 3 settings for drive, eco, comfort, sport, 2 settings for steering, comfort, sport, ESP, sport, sound, sport. That didn't really do much. I didn't really notice the sound much. I don't know if you'd really like to amplify a non-AMG 4-cylinder Mercedes engine. I'm fine without doing that. When you're in eco, it will coast. When you're coasting, it'll shut the engine off completely. 80 kilometers an hour, 90, the engine will completely shut off. And actually, arriving here, on the way here, I was coming up to a roundabout and it let me know there was a roundabout coming up and it told me to lift off to coast, and it actually used a little bit, a very slight engine brake, but it wasn't an engine brake. It felt like that. It was a regen braking. If you can see here, there's a little power bar and a charge bar for that tiny battery in there for the hybrid system. So it was kind of smart in that way and how it went about doing things. But before we go for a drive, I will show you how the top works. So right here, we hold this, top will begin to come up. You do have to hold this button, by the way. If I stop, it will not continue. Fairly quick, and you can do this while you're driving. I've done it up to at least 20 kilometers an hour. I'm not a huge fan of the way the rear end looks. I think the previous generation E-Class, the E53, looks a little bit sharper. The front I love, looks really good from the front, but it is sitting here in this spectral blue metallic, beautiful color, especially when the sun hits it. If I spec this car, this is exactly the color I would spec it in. In the States, the same color, I don't know why Mercedes did this, but it's called Starling Blue Metallic in the States. And right away, little 2-liter turbo is the only thing I hear spooling up every now and again, actually all the time, because this engine's virtually always in boost. But we'll go down into sport because that's probably a little bit better for you guys. So the AMG line also adds this leather steering wheel, the perforated leather steering wheel, but it's got power, of course. 4-cylinder here is paired with the 9-speed speed shift Mercedes transmission. Overall, this week it's been really good. Very smooth. Fuel economy right around an average of 26 miles per gallon. I've seen 9.4 liters per 100 kilometers, which is close. But again, I'm doing a little bit more spirited driving here. To me, this is a cruiser, so some criticisms I could give it, like the shifts aren't immediate, there's a little bit of a delay. You know, those criticisms would hold more weight in an AMG product, which this is not. This to me is a cruiser. This is a 4-seat, as we've just seen. You can fit 4 people fairly nicely back there, and it's a true 4-seat luxury cruiser. One of the first things I noticed is the sport suspension. It's very good on most roads. It's incredibly comfortable most of the time, although it does react very quickly, which could be a good thing, except if there's just a couple of series of tight bumps, not big ones, just kind of medium-sized bumps. You can tell, you can kind of feel the suspension immediately stiffen up, and then those bumps, you just kind of feel it through the entire chassis, through the seat, through the pedals, through the steering wheel. So it's not, well, it's far from S-Class floaty, but it's not quite what I would expect from or want from a strictly luxury cruiser. But when you do get into the corners, it gives you some confidence, and combined with the staggered tire setup here, 235s in the front, 275s in the back, we do have a little bit of rubber to lean on. So there's a little bit of confidence there. You can drive this in a spirited manner. It's got decent torque from the engine. It's more than you'll ever need if you're just daily driving. Wide torque as well, so that 48-volt mild hybrid system does some decent torque fill. It doesn't add to the peak power output, but it does provide, I believe, about 151 pound-feet of torque up to that number. Okay, I had to take a second and put the screen here into sport mode. I don't know why Mercedes designed it like they did, but they did. It's all right, it works. Where it does kind of suffer a little bit is just a little bit of refinement. So the sound, nothing to write home about. The transmission has given me a couple of hiccups as well, coming off of lights. Let's say I let off and then, you know, I get back on the throttle relatively quickly. A couple times it's literally bucked myself in the chair and my head's hit the rest behind me. And that's happened once or twice. Generally it's pretty good, but there have been those kind of weird, just strange moments. Yeah, so it just hasn't been completely up to par of what I would have expected, but like there, a little bit more throttle, sport mode, it does kick down fairly quickly. Is it an inspiring powertrain? Absolutely not. And that brings me to the 6-cylinder, the 3-liter turbocharged inline 6, of course, that was in that E53 AMG, and that is in the CLE 450. Unfortunately, we don't get that cab in Canada. You can only get the CLE 450 Cabriolet in the United States. You can't get the 6-cylinder in this car up here in Canada, which sucks. So if you want a 6-cylinder convertible Mercedes, you have to get an SL, which is a ton more expensive than this car. I mean, it's a big car. Mercedes, their lineup, the C-Class, there we go, we got some lean. The C-Class and the E-Class have gotten large, and this is no longer a small car. We've known that for years now, so I won't really harp on it too much. Yeah, when it's idling, not the best sound. It's got torque though. It's got plenty of torque. Overboost active, it says right there. So the 2023 C-Class cab did not have the screens we have here. So we have an 11.9 inch center display, multimedia display, and a 12.3 inch gauge cluster here. This is fairly similar to what the C-Class had before, but what is different is, of course, this screen here. This actually has a touch that the S-Class didn't have when I last drove it when it first came out a couple years ago, the S580, which for sun glare, you can tilt it a little bit. So I guess they probably got some complaints that the sun was glaring. It has helped a couple times. You still get smudges on this screen here. Of course, what also has been updated is the steering wheel here. I love this steering wheel. It's a great steering wheel, especially when it's not Alcantara, when it does have leather here. And these posts, I love the posts, hate the haptic feedback. I initially, in the original C-Class and the S-Class, when I drove those, I was like, hey, haptic feedback, I could get used to this. It's just a learning curve, but it's not. It's just not good. Volume sometimes doesn't work. Scrolling through menus is a little bit annoying. When it does work, it's fine, but see there, I'm already trying to scroll and it's... Just please scroll. Just do what I ask of you. Climate's okay though. We do have 99% of the climate menu just always here all of the time. You can pull up a little bit more if we go like this. Of course, Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. This one's been spec'd in macchiato and black leather on the interior. So I don't know what that's for. I guess for the Mercedes folk who are going to Starbucks, your caramel macchiato. If it spills, it just blends in. I guess that's what that's for. This one also does, of course, have the optional Burmeister audio system. And most of the materials are really good. Most of the build quality, if you're not really like tugging on things or poking around, it's fairly good. There are a couple creaks here and there. Not the biggest fan of this door design here, but it's fine, it's okay. The only reason why I say that really is because my water bottle has a tough time going in there. It's a very slow process because I don't want to damage anything or scratch anything. Of course, this one also has been fitted with the massage seats, the multi-contour seats here. That includes adjustable bolsters, of course lumbar, and then we've got heated and cooled seats to go with that. As you can see right there, it also has a heated headrest. For those cold Canadian days, this is a gift right there. The seats are great. I absolutely love these seats. Great materials overall. I don't know who spec'd this with the fake carbon fiber weave in the center. It's terrible. Your wireless phone charger is hidden on here to kind of minimize distractions. As tested here, $89,000 Canadian or $78,000 USD. That's almost $18,000 in options. About $17,000 in options, if I can do math correctly. That's insane. I mean, it has this open pore wood trim. It's got almost it has every single option as far as I know, but it's a lot of money. And then of course it does have the 360 cam, which is phenomenal. Actually, very good. I like this very much. Super high resolution. But look at the color of the car. Imagine paying whatever it was, $700, $800, $900 for this metallic blue, and they gave me a gray CLE. Disappointing. Great setup though, great cameras all around, very high resolution, tons of options, no curbing these 20-inch AMG wheels. I'm gonna give you my advice if you're coming to this channel. Hopefully, I assume you're a driver. You want to drive something at least decently fun. Again, this is a cruiser, but here's what I would do. Okay, so $89,000 Canadian. If you want the 6-cylinder engine, which I'm gonna tell you right now, you do, I would go for a base CLE 53, which sounds so good. It's a little bit smoother. It's paired a little bit better with that 9-speed. So the base standard CLE 53 Coupe, because you can't get it in the cab yet, at least here in Canada, that starts at $82,000 Canadian. So about $8,000 less than this right now. I personally would never spend $89,000 to buy a 4-cylinder Mercedes. That's just me. I don't know. You guys tell me what you would do. But let's jump on the freeway before we finish this off, and I'll show you one of my favorite things about this car. This is one of my favorite things about the C300. It has, of course, radar cruise control, active lane keep assist, but it has Distronic, Mercedes calls it. So let's jump back on the freeway here, see if I can get it to do an automatic lane change for us. It did this right when I picked up the car. I was heading home, needed to get home. I had radar cruise control set. I had no idea it could do this, and it made a sound, it made a little beep, and then it began changing lanes. It freaked me out. Legitimately, I thought Mercedes had other plans for my week, but luckily I took back control. Oh, here comes somebody. Case in point. That's what happens when we have left lane hogs. Okay, so we've got cruise control set, and I'm behind somebody in the right lane. There was nobody in my blind spot. It should decide what to do here. There we go. Me putting my hands on the wheel, by the way, was just, it likes you to have your hand on the wheel, but there, it just made a lane change automatically. So you can imagine my panic when it did that the first time. I had no idea it was gonna do that. It just shifts lanes, and then every so often it'll tell you to put your hands back on the wheel. And then once I pass this Chevy Cruze here, if only the left lane was going quicker, it would put me back in the right lane, actually, if traffic was flowing how traffic is supposed to flow. But as we all know, it never does. Or you can do it yourself. You can just tap the signal once and it'll do a lane change for you. How cool is that? Pretty cool. Would I use it in the real world? Probably not as often as I would think. It's pretty lazy. Like, I have to have my hands here. Anyways, I need to keep my eyes on the road, but radar cruise control is great. And everything else is good. This is a great car. It's a no, don't go back into the, what are you doing? I was trying to get back in the left lane. That was strange. Maybe it didn't want me to exit. Anyways, you guys, that is the 2024 CLE 300. Good car, good coupe. It's one of two roadsters, cabriolets. See, there, the engine just shut off. We're cruising. Cabriolets that you can buy from Mercedes. This and the SL right now are the only ones. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can find me on Instagram. I'm driving the 2025, the updated MDX Type S next week, so stay tuned for that. We'll see you soon.